in a safe manner. It's so important. We've worked with other areas of Arizona's transportation, such as school buses, and I think that this is the next logical step. The future is very bright when it comes to these kind of things. When it comes to hydrogen and other forms of energy that will eventually run trucks, and I hope that the Biden administration continues these efforts, and I trust they will. I do want to bring forward the next person to speak is Councilwoman Carol Smith of the City of Yuma. Councilwoman, thank you.
Good morning. My name is Carol Smith, City Council member of the City of Yuma. I'm also a registered nurse and a nurse educator for neonatal intensive care and pediatric nurses. It is my pleasure and my responsibility to comment on the necessity of strong, clean truck standards as it pertains to public health. Pollution from trucks and buses dirties our air, threatens our health, and can lead to an increased respiratory diseases like asthma. In Yuma County alone, we have over 20,000 people that suffer from asthma, and 4,000 of them are children. We know pollution exacerbates respiratory disease. Without stronger clean truck standards, we will continue to pollute the air and harm our health. Recently, I saw our community rise up and make their voices heard when we were faced with a local public health hazard. This community made it known they value their health and the health of their families. We live, work, and educate our children here. Trucks and agriculture are vital to our economy. We know that. It's important to note the distinction of this request, that it only applies to on-road heavy-duty trucks, not vehicles on our farms. It is my duty to respect and protect the health and well-being of those that live and work here, not just as a nurse, but as a leader and a lifelong resident of Yuma. The journey on Route Zero offers us a cleaner air and healthier environment. And next, I would like to introduce Joanna Mendoza, Marine Corps veteran and board member of Vets Forward.
Good morning. As we gather here today, memories of my time stationed at Marine Corps Air Station Yuma in the early 2000s came flooding back. I was a young sergeant then, filled with a sense of duty and a desire to serve my country. I was offered the opportunity to choose my next duty station after being stationed in Japan for a while, and I chose Yuma for several reasons. It was close to my home in Eloy in Pinal County, and it was a farming community just like Eloy, where I grew up. It reminded me a lot of home, and the people were hardworking and very kind. And while Yuma isn't currently my home anymore, as it once was, I do care about this community deeply. Growing up, I was instilled with the belief that we should all be good stewards of this land because it nourishes us. This is simple but profound message reminds us of our responsibility to protect and nurture our land, our home. We must create an environment where our children can flourish, where they can breathe clean air and live in a world that values their well-being. It's part of living the American dream that our country is known for. I've witnessed the long-term effects from exposure to toxic chemicals, not only in our communities, but forward deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan, and of course, here at home. It's easy to underestimate the consequences when we don't see the immediate effects. But fast forward a few years, and the signs of harm become all too clear. It has been these experiences that have shaped my perspective on environmental policy protections. And as a mom, I can't think of a better way to show my son the importance of fighting for what I believe in, and that's why I'm here today. The Biden administration has taken several steps to strengthen the clean truck standards, and the new rule from the EPA extends these standards from 2027 to 2032. These new standards will protect the health and well-being of everyone who calls this home, including those who have served, who currently serve, and those who work the land. The time to enact these standards is now. Today, I'm asking you to take one small step. by joining us in encouraging the Biden administration and the EPA to adopt clean truck heavy-duty standards. This will pave the way for a quick transition to more zero-emission vehicles. Together, we can reach our destination of a cleaner tomorrow by adhering to the simple principles of do no harm and leave this place better than we found it. Thank you so much, and this concludes our press conference.
We ask questions?
Do we have questions? Yeah, go for it.
Carol, can you speak a little bit about what you guys see like in the emergency room? Maybe what seasons you guys maybe see an increase in people with asthma?
You know, thank you for the question. I can speak on behalf of the pediatric population. We have certain seasons, of the year that are tougher on our kids than others. But knowing that there's 4,000 kids out here in Yuma County, there is that expectation that we're going to see kids come into the emergency room with exacerbated issues. If we can do anything to help prevent that, by reducing our pollution, for instance, we need to do it. It's our responsibility. This is a life-threatening disease. And it's not just, our pediatric kids suffering from asthma or adults suffering from asthma, COPD, there's cardiovascular harm, premature death. There's a lot of issues that we can kind of mitigate by reducing those emissions.
Have you guys received like complaints from, I don't know, maybe schools or parents who are like, you know what, we have all these trucks that are passing through the area?
Sure. There's always issues and concerns about congested traffic. So if they're concerned about congested traffic, regular vehicles alone, then there's obvious concern about big polluting vehicles that they're seeing drive by. And you almost know, it's a fact that our lower income families are affected more so. It's a scientific fact that these families are affected more so by pollution and these heavy duty trucks driving by just based on where they live. So, what I do hear from people is we live in Yuma for a reason. These wide open spaces, right? Blue skies surrounded by agriculture. We don't want to live in a place that's covered in a thick haze of smog. Those big cities, we live here for a reason because it's safe for our kids, and we would like to see it continue to be.
And I have a quick question. So obviously throughout the years that you've been a nurse, have you seen any changes when it comes to respiratory issues with kids? Maybe 5-10 years ago, maybe that you maybe didn't see as many and maybe you see more now?
Sure. So the basis of my nursing career has been in the neonatal intensive care unit, which is, right out the gate when kids are born. And I've expanded that career to cover pediatrics as well. We're always going to see an increase because our community is growing so fast. We have a very young community. I think our average age is 30, 31, I just heard the other day. So we have a massively growing community. We have like 3,000 babies born in Yuma a year. It's pretty incredible. So we're going to see that number increase just based on population alone. We do see that. My son suffers from it as well. So it's a really touchy and very scary subject when your kid is faced with a respiratory issue. It's life and death. It can be life and death. So yes, it is growing, and that's just based on our population alone.
Victor, do you have a question?
Yeah, for Brian, is there anything at the state level that's being done in terms of legislation that's being introduced, something that's being discussed? I know there's a lot of issues on the table in Phoenix, but specifically with this.
Yeah, certainly this year, there isn't any direct legislation that I know of, although our bill deadline is next week, so we'll know what comes up exactly. One of the things that we've been trying to do is ensure that we give room for companies to be able to go into that next generation. Giving incentives, ensuring that the development of these technologies, as I spoke about, or maybe I alluded to, there's 6, I believe, manufacturers right now that are working on hydrogen trucks. I know Hyundai is one of them. Toyota's another. And hydrogen, as we know, is being produced here in Yuma, outside of Yuma County. So I think that, I have high hopes for the future. I think that this is a great start, but I think that the future is really going to be all about evolving into a new fuel source, which is going to be zero emission.
Have any of you heard from the trucking industry? Are they on board? How are they reacting to these standards? Anybody heard anything?
I haven't heard yet. I don't know if that they've done their due diligence on the new standards yet, but I'll certainly reach out to them and see where they are at. Yes.
And then the standards are already like set in place, or they're gonna be in 2027, right? But they're already kind of official that they'll start taking place in 2027, right?
That's
And
the
then-
right number? Yeah.
And then what are exactly the standards?
Are you ready to finish your Yeah, we don't have the exact numbers. I mean, I think that this has been, the going on for 35 years, that we've slowly increased, and you see this in efficiencies, and it's not just emissions, it's also fuel efficiencies, which actually works to save companies money. So it's not. I mean, I think a lot of people think that the trucking industry is always angered at these kind of issues, but they're not. It works with their companies. And I think that's the important way that I think the Biden administration has been making these changes, is to ensure that we have all the stakeholders at the table, so that everyone is well aware of what's happening and knows where we want to go, and we get there in the most painless way possible, both for the young folks, but also for the industry that we need so much for our jobs.
And then I have another question too. So are you guys going to be putting more like charging stations maybe here in Yuma, so that obviously people have more access if they do have an electric vehicle?
Yes. So USDA Rural Development has quite a large amount of money. They're looking for places right now to place these chargers. There's actually a limited time for the money to be spent. They have their budget in the IRA, also the bipartisan infrastructure bill also has money, and all of it has to be spent within the next 2 years. So they are looking for more locations. Anyone who has an electric vehicle knows that if you travel, for instance, from Yuma to Phoenix, there's a very limited number of chargers. We have the one in Dayton. The one in Gila Bend works sometimes and doesn't work others, as one of my friends found out the other day. But you're going to see more of those things out there, and I think that that's important. There's also tax rebates for people to put them in their own homes. I think that's going to be another way. Again, I mean, this is new technology. I know people think that electric cars have been going for a long time, and they have, but the actual deployment of the infrastructure is, I mean, that takes a long time. You think about if we started tomorrow with gas vehicles, how long would it take us to put gas stations everywhere they are? It would take 60 years. So I think that this is going to take a few years, but the incentive is there, the tax incentives are there, but also I think that the people's incentives are there, because they do want to make sure that we have a cleaner future and make sure that our kids aren't suffering from asthma.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Did you want to give her the answer about the